everybody. It's James with Genuine Geek Media, the nerdiest hot rodder on the internet. Today I'm endeavoring to get my 3D printer back up and running. Ever since we moved into the new house, I really didn't have the room to set my printers up, get everything running the way I wanted to, where the prints could run undisturbed, and I was worried about, resin fumes in the house and things like that. You can argue about that if you want to in the comment section, whatever. So I moved my printers out to the garage, and that worked okay for a time. But as the temperature started to drop, I began to run into issues. Every time I'd try a resin print, the print would complete, but nothing was on the build plate. And I would find bits of the resin pulled up in the bottom and hardened where I could tell the light was coming on, everything was working, but it just was not sticking to the plate. I tried tweaking all kind of settings, longer exposure times, more burn-in layers, longer burn-in layers, everything I could think of, even tried changing resins, and still ran into problems. And ultimately what I determined, or I'm pretty sure I've determined, is that the temperature outside was just too cold. The build plate's cold, the resin's cold, it's just not going to heat up enough to stick. So looking at a few DIY solutions and different things, and really, I've got too many projects as it is, decided to go with something pre-made, and I found the Thermal Vat Band. So what this thing does is sticks around the metal vat with just a 3M adhesive. It's got little heating elements in it here. It'll focus. But basically will heat the vat, and then subsequently the resin inside. Another tip that I've seen from some people, of course I've not done it yet, is to take and lower the build plate into the resin for a few minutes and let it sit just sort of, a little above the FEP, so not really at home, but up a little bit. That way the build plate can heat up as well. You don't want to take a cold piece of metal and stick it down there and expect it to work well, even if your resin's heated. So I'll be trying that as well. So the way this thing's designed, it's pretty simple. There are a couple of thermostats on here. Here's your power connector. Right here is just a little barrel connector. This thing is going to stick, like I mentioned, around the vat. I've already kind of test fit it just to see how I'm going to like it. I do have a little bit of an overlap. So coming in here when it goes to stick, there's about 2.5 inches that's overlapping one side to the other. Went through a few of the installation videos. It wasn't clear to me at first, but I think I found the solution for that. So I'll show you when I get to that point. So on the power connector here, you'll see it's just a barrel connector. And the kit comes with the power brick, power control. And there's the end, just plugs right in there. In a lot of the videos I've seen, he kind of puts where the wires come off on the corner, but those were, first and foremost, those vats kind of had a smooth curve to their edges. The Elegoo Saturn does not. But also, that was an earlier design where these wires were actually loose and you had to, pin them into a connector and things. This is a little bit newer design, and so as you can see here, it's all already done for you, which is nice. Once we get it on there, we've got these bands that just go around the outside, just saying, hot surface. And of course, it's going to make it a little bit nicer, look nicer as well. And a thermometer just to kind of get a feel for where the temperature is. So I'm going to be putting all of that on here and hopefully get back to printing. Now, I've already cleaned my vat really well with isopropyl alcohol, cleaned it up in the garage before I brought it inside. But before we do the installation, just from me touching it with my oily hands, any resin residue, anything like that, the kit does come with a little scuff pad here. We're just going to put some 90% alcohol in there, clean around the outside, make sure we've got it good and clean. Now, as I mentioned before, if you look at their installation videos, a lot of the vats kind of have a nice smooth curve around the edge. So I'm going to have to kind of work this around the corners for this vat, because as you can see, it's pretty well a 90 degree, right? Yeah, I know the FEP's cloudy. I'll deal with that later. You also get some of this foil tape. Now, this is just like insulation foil tape. You can pick this up at Lowe's or anywhere if you happen to need some more, but good for, holding bits down. Like I mentioned, that I've got some overlap. We're going to do the Z-fold method that the vendor recommends, and when we do that, we'll just use some of this foil tape to kind of hold things in place and keep it nice and tight. Another thing is right here on the edge of my vat, you'll see where these handles are. See if you can see that. There's a rise right here. So we are going to have to kind of contend with that. We'll try to make sure that we smooth that vat band down into that curve when we come around. So we're going to go nice and slow because honestly, I don't want to be out $90. So see if we can get this going. Got it nice and cleaned up. Give it one more once over with the alcohol, just to make sure it's nice and clean. Now, the way I plan to install mine is I'm going to have this connector here on the back side. So one of the things to keep in mind is your cover on your printer. You're going to have to drill a small hole in order for this wire to poke through. So you want to make sure, it's somewhere where it's going to be convenient that you can make the hole for the wire for the power adapter to be able to come out from inside where the vat sits. So, but that is where I'm going to start. Now I'm not going to start placing the vat band there. I'm actually going to start on the front side. It's going to fold around this way. So we're going to start peeling this 3M tape slowly. I'm going to come around. We'll work this corner, and once we've got the corner nice and how we want it, then the next challenge is going to be these little rises right here into the handle. We're going to work our way around, and the good thing is that's going to put our thermostat and our power connectors all on this one side together, which to me looks nice and clean. If I find out that that was the wrong way to do it, that's on me. All right, so after looking at this a little bit more, and a little bit of a correction, I think what I'm going to do, see right here where this power connector is, the 3M tape's actually got a split there, or the cover. So instead of starting on this back side and trying to come around, I think, so I get this nice and centered here, I'm going to start with the power connector here on the vat band. I'm going to come around and work to this corner, and it's going to put everything nice and tight, centered on this side like we want it, and then we'll work our way around until we come to where it ends. Then, as I come around with the other side here around the vat, I do have, again, a couple inches overlap. So when I get to that piece, I'm going to do the Z-fold method so that they come right up to one another, and then I'll put a little piece of the insulation tape or the foil tape over that. So let's get started. So at the corners, one of the things that he mentioned doing is making sure you can kind of peel this back. Once you've got some of it stuck down, you just kind of tap it to get it into place. And as you work around the corners, you're kind of making like an up and down motion just to make sure that you make that corner smooth and get everything to stick just like you want it, nice and tight. And then, well, that was great. Luckily, these are a lot more flexible than they used to be from what I understand. So once we've kind of worked that around that corner, we have it nice and tight, we can stretch it straight and then just kind of tap it down along the vat. Just like this. Now we're coming to that corner. So again, since we've got everything straight, I'm not going to stick down on the rise here. I'm going to kind of press this down, not super hard. Just get this pressed into that corner without peeling any more of the backing off just yet. We're going to make sure we've got this nice and tight how we want it. Make sure we've got it down into that corner really well. Then we can come over the top. So I'm going to kind of hold my finger down there, and then stick down on the top here. What I'm trying to avoid is having any kind of gap or air gap down in that crease right there. I want to try to get it nice and tight in there, which I failed at doing because I can see I'm not sure if you'll be able to see on the video, but I've got, you can see it just looks like a ramp going up to that. I want it to actually smooth into there. So I'm going to peel this back. And one of the things that was mentioned, if you've got a section like this where you need a little more rigidity in this curve, once you get it where you want it, you can always go back and put some of that foil tape in there, and it'll just keep some tension on it because it's pretty malleable and bendable. So I'm going to keep playing with this a little bit, see if I can get it where I'm happy with it. So I'm not sure if you guys can see this. I actually had a dum-dum sitting on my desk from an order from Motion Raceworks for my new throttle body. And so what I did was kind of took that handle of that sucker and I just kind of stuck that in that corner there just to allow me to give some even tension across there as I laid the rest of this across the top. And it seemed to work pretty well. So same thing on this bit here. As I come down, I just want to get this into that bend as well as I can without much tension so that it'll actually stick down on there. Feel a little more when I'm backing down. I'm going to use my dum-dum here to hold that in place. Fit all the way down. That actually looks pretty good. So now, same thing. Got this excess here I'm working with. Peel some more of this back, and we're going to come around this curve here, and again, we're just going to kind of work it up and down. Make sure we make the bend nice and clean, and it sticks. Now, I was very worried because I thought this stuff was going to be incredibly sticky. And if it were a bit more sticky, doing some of those bends might be a little bit easier because I see some of them trying to come back up. I'm probably going to use some of the foil tape there, but it does give you, it's a little forgiving if you need to peel something back up and rework something. Seems to be doable for sure. But yeah, so that half is done. Looks like we're good around the curve there. Make sure this end sticks like we want it to. And I'll show you. So this is half of our TVB done. See, we did kind of get those bends there, which is what we wanted. And around to this side. So when I come back around, you'll see it's going to overlay a good bit. So what I'm planning to do, if it'll focus again, what I'm planning to do is basically we'll fold this adhesive in on itself, like so, to where it ends right here where it should be, and then we'll lay the excess over, hold it down with the foil tape. So one thing I've noticed is I do have a little bit of it hanging over on the, underneath the bottom here. He does say in the video this sort of orangish yellow area, or not the yellow, but the sort of orangish area you can trim. I was going to peel this back up, but I think what I'm going to do is just take an X-Acto knife and just trim just enough that this is right flush with the bottom versus trying to peel it back up. Alright, so I'm at the point now where I need to do the Z-fold method to shorten this up just a little bit. I think I could potentially just let this overlap and it might be okay, but I figured at that point I've got the adhesive side of this laid over the other one and this is going to be getting hot, so maybe not the best. Since he recommends doing the Z-fold, that's what I'm going to go with. So basically I'm going to peel the backing. We're going to lay this back over itself so the adhesive sticks to itself here. And all of this will kind of sit flush right here. And if I do it at just the amount I have here, it should bring the two ends of my vat band perfectly together. We'll cover it with some of the foil tape and we should be good to go. See how that works. Now, one thing to note here, and I don't know in his video, it was difficult to tell. I'm not giving this a hard crease. I'm leaving kind of a little bit of a loop here, if you can see that in it. So again, it's just going to be stuck down with the foil tape, so I'm not going to make too hard of a bend in it. I'll dig back a little bit, and if I find that I can, I might try to press it down a little bit more to get it to sit a little bit more flush, but at the end of the day, it should be good. But if you see here, it brought the two ends right there together, so we should be good there. Just got to figure out how to get my foil tape on here. I want to do that. For the most part, we've got this installed. My little Z-fold hasn't gone the best in the world. I've got the foil tape holding the Z-fold together, but getting it to stick down to the vat and kind of keep this tucked out of the way, I might need a bigger piece. I'm going to have to keep playing around with that, but you can see we did that. But the end result is we have nice vat band stopping right where we need it to be. The fold's right there kind of near the corner, which is okay, I guess. And then on this side, we've got our thermostats and our power coupling where the power is going to connect. So nice and easy. We will, of course, like I mentioned, have to modify the cover on the Saturn for the power cord to be able to come out of there. Alright, so I was able to get my Z-fold done, and as you can see, that did lead to a nice end here with no overlap, which is great. Ultimately, I ended up using two pieces of foil tape, one to kind of hold the Z shape in place, and then another to kind of bend around this curve and just hold it down nice and flat to the vat. So that's going to be the front side of the vat, and then on the back side, we've got power coupling and everything. So all in all, I'm going to say a pretty clean installation. Hopefully going to get this thing up and running here pretty soon. Print some nerdy stuff, print some car stuff. I'm going to get my FDM printer back up and running because I've got some ideas for some gauge pods and things that I want to do. Some stuff for the 3rd gen Firebird dash as well around the radio. My radio bezel's been cracked for years, so I'm going to try my hand at designing something up and reprinting one myself. Lots of plans in the works. Thermal Vat Band, if you're watching, I gotta say, using the Dum Dum stick to kind of get these contours right here seem to work pretty well. They seem to be sticking. I've got a little bit of an air gap, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. So maybe throw a sucker in with the orders as well. But I will say they included a lot of stuff: the foil tape, the covers, the scuff pad, the little thermostat or thermometer here. All in all, I'm pretty excited about it. Hopefully we'll be back to printing pretty soon. And you know you can't get out without me asking. Go ahead and give the video a like, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be covering everything from nerdy stuff to drag racing, cars, whatever you're into. We'll probably geek out over it too. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Have a good evening, folks.